close to.
Somewhere in those.
We don't have ruins here, but we are like 3 hours from there.
Okay. Pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe we chat after this.
Mm-hmm. For sure, it's actually the first time that I meet someone from Honduras that I'd seen, a network like this, because it's pretty rare to find Hondurans.
Yeah, even from Latin America, it's pretty rare to find someone here.
So this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Look at this, Doris. Your first week of joining Braintrust and a new experience. Our next Braintrust retreat will be in Honduras.
Oh, you will love Roatan. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, Roatan.
You really like it. It's Caribbean. It's white sand. It's beautiful.
Yeah, for Sergio that loves traveling, you must be visit. You have to visit Roatan. I mean, it's wonderful.
I've been in Costa Rica, Honduras not yet, but I promise that's one of my next stops.
Cool.
Well, I'm so excited to have everyone here today, Friday morning, afternoon, evening. My name is Shirley. You probably already know me. But I'm so happy to introduce to you Paulina. You saw her on emails. She's our community lead for events. So I'm going to stop talking and pass the mic to Paulina. This is her event today. Go ahead, Paulina.
Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us today. It's our very first show and tell. Hopefully we'll have more in the future. But we created this event because we wanted to cultivate a community where everyone can learn from and be inspired by each other. And since every single approved talent member is handpicked on Braintrust, we know we're just sitting on a gold mine of amazing talent and experience, and we want everyone to be able to reap the benefits of that. So this show and tell is a chance for both you to learn from other people and others to learn from you about how to approach problems from different perspectives, how to work within your client's team, and how to create impact. So we'll be sharing these recordings on social media, the Braintrust website, and most importantly, some of the clients in the Braintrust network. So show and tell is a great opportunity to put yourself out there. Just a reminder, the presentation order will be Daniel, Kelly, Bill, Sergio, Doris, and then AD. So if you could just give a quick intro of yourself and what you do right before your presentation, that would be great. And without further ado, I guess, Daniel, please take it away.
All right, cool. So let me just quickly share my screen.
I need to give you host access, so 1 second.
Okay. Well, I think I can now. Let's see.
Okay, now you can.
Okay, so let's move you over here. Okay, so for context, I'm Daniel Miranda. I'm a full stack engineer. And give me a sec. So, yeah, I've been working as a full stack engineer for about 6 years now. And I recently joined Braintrust. And I'm here to share a problem that we faced on one of the projects I work on. So the problem was that we had this public-facing website with severe loading issues. For some pages, we recorded up to 30 seconds to load. So you may imagine that the users just waiting and waiting on a loading indicator. So that was totally no good for the site and the user experience. The tech stack in this project was a React, Node, and GraphQL API. So then we moved to the diagnosing of the problem. We didn't know what was causing the issues. And so we went into investigating what was causing it. I personally did the analysis for this problem. First, I started in the backend trying to identify the network requests with the longer response times. Aside from that, I also wanted to identify very specific functions. For this, I used the Chrome developer tools. I used Postman to generate test API calls, and also the profiler and debugger functions of Node.js. For the front-end analysis, I wanted to identify the portions of the code with longer runtimes. Given that this was a React application, I wanted to identify the specific components that were causing multiple re-renders and that might be impacting on the final render of the data for the user. For this, I used the tooling that comes from React, the React profiler, and also the cron developer tools. So in my findings, I identified that we had a very inefficient database access. There were a high number of accesses to the same data for users, the same data for some other identities. And so we were using the database in a very inefficient way. In the front end, I identified inefficient data management. There were a high number of repetitive data transformations when the data were coming from the backend, where it were already took like 20 seconds to respond. In the front end, we had operations over that data that were repetitive, that were causing more loading issues for the user. Besides that, I also identified a high number of requests to the same data, very similar to what were happening on the backend with the data, with the database access. But in this case, was the front end that was hitting the backend to the same API, very repetitive. So for solution, we had to address the backend issues and the front end issues. So for the backend, we decided to batch and deduplicate database access in very specific time spans. For instance, we could take all the requests in 10 seconds and try to deduplicate them and batch them together to the database. For the front end, we implemented a more robust data management tool. We were using a very simple GraphQL client, and we decided to migrate to Apollo client, which had a lot of advantages. And we also added also some network request tools to kind of monitor how was our latency for the request, also with the Apollo ecosystem tools. So the business impact for that was that we reduced the loading times from 30 seconds to 3 seconds in some pages. It was awesome to see that working. We still wanted to improve it a little bit more, but that was outside of scope, and we were really pleased with this already. And aside from that, in the front end, with the new tools for data management, we were able to eliminate 3,000 lines of code, and with less code, we had less problems, so we were happy for that as well. And in the backend, we were using, after the solution was implemented, the database resources were being used in a more efficient way, which gave us more space to do some other internal operations with low latency times. And so that was it. So thank you very much for listening.
That's awesome. I mean, load time from 30 seconds to 3 seconds. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was crazy to see, but yeah, we had very severe issues there, and the tools that we implemented helped a lot.
I know we have some developers in the room. Do we have some questions or thoughts or experiences, similar experiences you can share with Daniel?
A question. So, like, more specifically, like, what tools did you use to do this, like, huge refactoring? Like, removing like 3,000 lines of code, it's not something that happens overnight. So, like,
Yeah.
what was your process? How did you go about it?
Well, in regarding the tools, we had Redux, a lot of Redux code. We had reducers, a lot of actions, and a lot of other boilerplate for Redux that were managing the data that was coming from the database, from the backend. So we implemented Apollo in the stack, a GraphQL client, and Apollo came with the store management, with the local data management for the client. So we didn't need those Redux reducers or actions anymore. And even though it was a huge, kind of a big code base, we work 4 members of the team on that. We split it by pages. So there was there was some pages for forms. So one person took that. Then another person took the main profile page. We have profiles and organizations, and I took a page for catalogs, and I was also supporting the teams with the other members of the team with issues that they had on the implementation. So that was basically, the Apollo was the big tool that helped us to remove those lines of code.
How long did it took you to do the refactoring?
It took us like between 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not a simple stuff, but that was the best alternative for that problem.
Daniel, do you have any samples, any visual samples that you can share? I mean, I understand you guys are, the engineers behind the scenes, but do you have any samples that we can see the before and after, or is still not live, or I don't know?
I don't have any samples of code or videos or how we're before and after. Maybe I could take some screenshots from the pull request and I could share it for you, but the code is under a non-disclosure agreement, so I cannot share it.
I understand. Thank you.
All right. Cool.
I have a question in terms of like communication with encoders. So you were hired on as a contract freelancer, right? And then they already knew they had this problem. As you communicate like your discoveries, did the scope have to change and the timeline has to change because of the new issues that you're discovering? And if so, like how do you communicate that? Because a lot of times what I see is, I'm on the other side, and then let's get engineers in, say, hey, can you fix this or make it better 30 days, right? And then you'll say, yeah, we'll try, right? So like, how does that communication and how do you scope this and communicate your discoveries?
To other roles. So yeah, what happened there is that there were some features in the pipeline, but this particular issue was very important, was a high impact one. So basically we couldn't move ahead without addressing this issue first. And once I figured out the problem, so I put it in a way that if we move forward with more features, we will be increasing the problem, adding more code that we will later remove. So it's better if we wait some time for those features and focus on improving the current state of the system. And then that will allow us to move faster for the upcoming features. And so that changed the timeline of features. We had to shift 2 or 3 months for the new upcoming features. But in the end, it was worth it because the common features were easier to implement with the new tools, less code, and so they were satisfied.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot of the video I think AD shared yesterday about how to like make time estimations as a freelancer and just the importance of like standing your ground when it comes to like estimating how long a project will take to the client.
Yeah, that's true. I try to kind of have a span of time. Like I think it would take 1 month, but I increased that probably 1 week, 2 weeks, just to have some room for managing any conflicting issues, like unexpected issues. I mean, yeah, that's one very important thing.
Okay, well, I think now we can move on to the next presenter. So Kelly.
So, well, hi everyone. My name is Kelly Lamano. I'm a multimedia content creator in Orlando, Florida. My title is very broad, but my expertise is very detailed. So I help business owners pretty much bring their vision to life with content writing, editing, photography, email marketing, and most recently, virtual event production. So I'll take you back to March 2020. I had just finished a product shoot with a client, one of my best shoots, one of my most fun shoots. And It was my last week working with the company as a W-2 employee. About 2 weeks later, the state of Florida shut down. During this time, I had also been leading some in-person events with a local nonprofit called Spark Orlando. So we host free events for freelancers, side hustlers, entrepreneurs, everyone in between. So the good thing was we switched to virtual events. There was no traffic, no downtown parking, just show up as you are. And that led to someone messaging me on Instagram, a local community builder called Alora. So they had an idea to host a virtual conference for freelancers, which brings us to our challenge. So I'll share my screen. So the challenge was that freelancers and business owners couldn't attend in-person conferences to learn, grow their business, and network with entrepreneurs. These were a couple of our in-person events. You can see everyone's kind of talking to each other. We're at co-working spaces. We're able to talk about our freelancer problems, questions, and wins and things like that. So the problem was, how can we turn this into something that's virtual, something that people aren't going to get bogged down with video fatigue or the time it takes, to sit in front of a computer and take all that time away from family and work and things like that. So the solution that we came up with was the Freelancers Conference, which was a free 2-day virtual conference for freelancers, business owners, everyone in between. And we wound up building this in 4 months. So it was a very, very tight deadline. And we pretty much wanted to get it out as soon as possible because people were wanting free education. They were wanting something more than just webinars. They also wanted something that was interactive. So how can we do something that's not just talking at people, but also inspiring a discussion and having those networking opportunities too? So a lot of my role was booking all of the speakers, setting up integrations, so figuring out what we need to do for our promotions, our email marketing. So it was a lot of different programs plugging into Zapier. So we used like MailChimp, Hopin, StreamYard, Google Ads, Facebook, Instagram, all of the social media channels using SEO, and then also kind of tapping into partnerships that we had. So a lot of this was a big learning experience as to, number one, what's going to work for people? Number two, how can we make this interactive? And number three, how can we do this in such a tight deadline? And so this was the final product. So Shirley was actually one of our speakers. She was one of our keynote speakers too. And it was really awesome because it was a live event. So pretty much anything could happen. And Shirley was one of our keynote speakers on day one. And originally she had sent in a pre-recorded video. She called me the day of and said, hey, can I present live? And we said, yes, absolutely. We would love that. That was on day one. And on day two, we had a panel of 3 business owners who are going to speak on how they diversify their income. Well, by the end of day one, a few of those panelists had canceled. So we kind of reached out to our resources again and just said, hey, who can participate in this? And we wound up having 6 different panelists from all different backgrounds, all different experiences come together on the panel there. And these were some of the partnerships that we had. So the Freelancers Union is a national nonprofit in the US that caters to freelancers and giving them free resources. Spark Orlando was our local chapter. Alora was the company that we partnered with. And then Sarah Neal, Photo and Design, she did all of our social media, our website, promotions, and things like that. So this was some more pictures from the actual event. So you could see we were all in different locations. About 50% of us were in Orlando, but then we had some people in Washington, California, different states, different time zones. So we were figuring out how to work together. Kofi was our host as well. So he kept the conference going each day. He sort of worked as our DJ and also introducing all of the speakers and really just getting the crowd excited the entire time. And so the results of the entire conference was we started with 100 signups and we wound up with over 1,300 attendees from 24 different countries. It was a free event, so we offered donations. So we raised over $5,000 in donations, which went directly to the Freelancers Relief Fund, which was a relief fund for freelancers affected by the pandemic. And so that was from all of our sponsors. We had over 12 sponsors, and anyone who wanted to receive video recordings could also donate for that. We also had 32 speakers, 16 workshops, and 6 keynotes. So we really packed in a lot of information in 2 days, but it was a really great event that we didn't really know what to expect. So it was, we set the bar high and it went even higher than that. And we got a lot of really great feedback from our attendees. So a lot of people said, thank you for connecting us while we're all apart. They enjoyed the platform that we used. They also appreciated that sometimes people can't go to in-person conferences based on their work schedule or family. And so this was a convenient way for people to get together, network. They could do one-to-one, sort of almost like a speed dating virtual networking opportunity, and then also go to workshops and pretty much level up their business and learn for free. And so this was something that if you had asked me, you know, a year ago, is this something that you would have done? I probably would have said, I don't really know. Like, I didn't know much about virtual conferences or anything like that. So it was a really great opportunity to work as a team and just really come up with a solution and kind of delegate and see who can do what with design, promotions, project management, and plugging that in. And that was the Freelancers Conference 2020.
So you mentioned that people were looking for something more than just like a webinar, something more engaging. Did you have a particular research process to determining like what people would want out of a conference like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. We asked a lot of people within Spark Orlando. So we have about 300 members. So we did send out a survey that way. And then also talking to local communities, we definitely started local and then kind of branched out from there because locally we know people, it's kind of familiar. So we did ask people on social media and then also kind of just calling up friends and people who were either interested in freelancing or maybe they were doing a full-time job and side hustle and just learning like what's working right now, what's kind of tiring you out, and what do you want to get out of like more than just webinars.
Speaking from a participant's perspective, Kelly, what an amazing conference. I joined, and then the hop-in experience, right, is the speaker is in the middle and then you have chat on the side. The chat just kept going and going and going. There were over 1,000, like 1,300 attendees, and I was just blown away by the reception and just the positivity, really, I think, of people encouraging one another and wanting to connect offline. So what would you say if you had to say one thing, right, that contributed to so much participation? What would it be? And what's one thing you want to do better for next time?
I think having a host really helped. So having Kofi as our host, he really brought a lot of energy and filled in the gaps. So even if we had a lunch break or time between workshops and keynotes, he still kept it going. So if people were tuning into the stage, he could be like, hey, let's do a raffle or let's do some freelance trivia. And really just, if people weren't responding, he'd kind of play back with them too and like, hey, I want to hear some more from you guys. So a lot of that was, I think, live. And then the speakers also really helped because a lot of people jumped into the chat. I didn't show any screenshots, but like Shirley, you mentioned, there was a chat sidebar. So if people didn't feel comfortable coming on video, they could just type in the chat like, hey, I'm from Chicago or I'm from here, and kind of get the conversation going that way. And then something that I would like to do in the future is maybe have more roundtable discussions, because the networking was a little bit freeform. So it was kind of, I understood that it was a little bit confusing for people. If you didn't know that there was a networking area, they weren't sure where to go. So I would like to do a little bit more with maybe the promotions next time. We showed a lot of screenshots of how to use Hopin and how to use the platform, because that was something like as a user, like I wanted to know like even early on. So in the future, probably showing people more of the networking area and how they can utilize that.
Nice. Do you plan to that event again?
Yes, yeah, that is actually something, another sort of, I guess not a solution, but something that came out of that is virtual event production. So I've done a couple summits since then, which are just like one-day events. And we do plan to do another sort of freelancers conference based on that. We got a lot of feedback. People want to have it again. And so we're kind of looking at like, what's that going to look like? And like, how can we replicate it again? So we have, I feel like we have more of a template now to where we can duplicate that.
Yeah, nice.
Eli, congratulations. This is a great example of how we use opportunity in times of, COVID or contradictions. And this is great, great. Congratulations. So when is the next one? I mean, wow, I'm so excited now.
Good question. I'll keep you posted. We don't have a date yet, but we do hope it'll be around the same time. So it was in the summer last year in July. So I'll definitely keep the community updated.
Super, super. If you need some help, creating the brand, the logo or something, please, I'm here. I would like to collaborate with you, co-create or whatever. I'm in.
Thank you, Sergio. That sounds good.
Anytime.
Kelly, we're here for you. Braintrust will love to partner again.
Thanks, Shirley.
Who do we have next, Paulina? I'm just a little conscious of time.
Okay, next up we have Sergio.
Oh, me. Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay, let me do something very quick here. Let's share a screen. Sorry.
I think I'm actually next. But Sergio,
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
you're
yes.
right.
Go
Okay,
ahead,
sorry,
please,
Bill.
please.
I don't mind whatever you guys want.
Go ahead, please.
All right, sure. So I missed the introduction earlier. I had some camera trouble. I'm Bill. I'm a developer here in Athens, Greece. Right now, I am a senior front-end developer for TaskRabbit through Braintrust. I have, I think, a little bit over 11 years of experience in pretty much everything around the stack. I've done backend, I've done server administration, I've done a lot of front end. Right now, I'm mostly working on React and React Native, and that's basically my role in TaskRabbit. I worked with React, React Native, and Ruby on Rails. But now I'm going to show you a little project that we did in my previous company, Nimber, which does package delivery. Basically has the kind of Uber model, but specifically for deliveries. Anyone can sign up to either be a bringer or have something shipped to their location or help move or whatever that may be. And I'm going to talk about a very specific problem with that. So let me share my screen. There you go. Right. Everyone can see it, right?
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever shared anything on Zoom. So the app is called Nimber for Bringers, and the problem that we had was how can we deliver packages when we're offline? So what is Nimber for Bringers? Nimber for Bringers is basically the app that we developed at Nimber for bringers, obviously, self-explanatory, who are the users in our system that pick up and deliver packages. So through the app, they can basically control every aspect of their process. They can check their to-dos, they can chat with recipients, they can bid on new deliveries, they can edit a profile, whatever they need to do. So the app was originally developed specifically for iOS, which natively, and then we worked on it in React Native specifically for Android. And later down the line, we basically ported the React Native code to work for both iOS and Android. So we had one code base. So what was the problem? The problem was because deliveries can happen anywhere at any time. Oftentimes the bringers would complain that they had no network access, so they couldn't deliver their packages because they had no connection with the API, so their requests would fail. So since we couldn't really rely on whatever dodgy cell connection was there when the packages were gonna be delivered, we had to come up with a solution to mitigate that when the user's device was offline. So aside from just the fact that they had to deliver the package in the app, we, in some cases, also collected proof of delivery in form of photos, signatures, or geolocation of where the package is. So what was the solution we came with? This was a problem that really was on our mind for a while. So in short form, we decided to treat the API as a second-class citizen when it came to deliveries specifically. So I took heavy inspiration from a great article from James Broad on Medium, which is creating an offline first React Native app. I can send the link to whoever wants after this. So in it, he describes how your app should rely on your storage solution first and your API second. So in our case, our storage solution was Redux that Daniel mentioned earlier. We didn't have GraphQL or Apollo or anything like that. It was a pretty traditional API. So what we did was we built a centralized location where all our API connections went through. So we had one place to control if the network would fail, what do we do with those connections? So we heavily relied after that on Redux to store any requests that were gonna be sent, but the phone was offline or they were failing for whatever reason. So we basically stored the entire request object in Redux in an array, and then we handled those after the fact. So we used the netinfo React Native library to check if the device was online, and it also gives you the functionality to check if internet is also reachable. So if it was business as usual, a request was sent to the API, and then we handle the response. If the device was not online, we stored that request in an array in Redux, and once the device was online, we could handle that and handle the UI aspect of it all. So we obviously ran into some hurdles. Rewriting our entire network structure was not a simple solution. So how does the app actually function when the request is going to be sent later? You can't just have an infinite loader for the user and they're like wondering what's going on. So in that case, we returned a promise, which is a way for JavaScript to handle a lot of requests that basically let whatever was calling that component to say, hey, the device is offline, but I'm handling it. So move the user to the next step of the flow. So basically for the user experience, we handled that as a success, and then we moved things along. The problem, of course, was if something did go wrong after the fact, then human intervention was absolutely required. But at least with this, we kind of took out human intervention at that point. We moved the need for a human to intervene only if something fails. Whereas before, it was 100% if they didn't have a network connection and the app wasn't running properly, they would call us and we would have to handle it on our end. So what was the impact? We significantly reduced support tickets regarding deliveries. A lot of them went through very, very successfully. By creating a centralized API, we were able to troubleshoot a lot of network-related issues much more effectively and able to handle some events and without repeating code. So if we wanted to hook something to that specific request, we could do that in one file instead of doing it in 10 or 20 files. Most importantly, most users never really knew the difference. Aside from very few people that ran into some bugs early on, most people didn't really realize that anything changed under the hood. The only real issue we had was that some packages were quote unquote delivered in our system, but ended up missing delivery verification info, but we were always able to verify that with the recipient. So nothing really happened like in a real sense. And I think that's about it. I tried to kind of rush through it because I know we're kind of short on time and I didn't want to take anyone else's time.
Hey, Bill. So
Hey.
from my perspective, that was a really great way to solve that issue. I mean, as I understand it, you made it like transparent for the user when they were offline, and then after you dispatch the request, right? So I wonder what strategies for error handling did you implement in that solution?
So could you repeat that?
Yeah, I just wonder what strategies for error handling did you implement on that solution? For instance, even if you retried a request, it failed. So what uh, process did you follow on those cases?
Okay, so first of all, we had Sentry for all our error handling. So any event that failed for some odd reason, we saw that there. Um, and also when the initial request was happening, we let the user know that, hey, you're offline, maybe you want to turn on your data, maybe the data was off, or maybe you want to connect to some Wi-Fi. So we tried to front load a lot of the issues, try to sort of catch them, not just rely on that solution. And but after the fact, if something kept failing, first of all, it would end up back in the queue, but we would also get an error in that case. So if a 500 error happened, or which is for those not know, like a fatal error, like something went wrong, or a 402, which is an access forbidden. So maybe their cookie was expired or something. We would get that. So we would handle it in that sense. But we didn't really have a case where some requests would just keep repeatedly failing. We never ran into that. The worst case scenario is that it would fail after the fact, but most of the things got handled anyway.
Nice, nice, nice. Thank you very much, and
Was the
congratulations. Like a good
a,
solution.
a problem with that solution was that because it happened so late in the lifespan of the app, like we developed, I think, like 9 months after we started development of the actual app. A lot of things were kind of intertwined and we couldn't really decouple them at that point. So we came up with that solution. If you actually see the article, like it outlines how to do it from the start, which is obviously not super useful if you have a year's worth of code behind you. So ideally, what you would do is you would build your app around that. Like you would only rely on your storage, nothing else. Everything else is just happening in the background. You're kind of agnostic. So you would just rely on your Apollo or your Redux. Like Apollo, I know has a lot of that stuff built in. Like it tells you if something is available. It tells you if you're waiting for a request. It tells you that. So that's super convenient, but we didn't have that luxury at the time.
Awesome.
Yeah, I had just one question on that. Like, if you have to start now to do it again, would you use, for example, something like I don't know if you probably know that there's a AWS data store now that it's pretty much do lots of things for you in this sense.
Yeah, I don't really know how I would build it aside from having that logic from the start and maybe ideally having GraphQL, but you don't always have that luxury because I didn't have control of like the entire stack. We're working on an already existing API with a lot of code that API supported other systems, not just our app. So I've played a little bit with AWS Amplify and how it basically handles a lot of that stuff for you. That would be really great. And so I don't really have an answer for that aside from do it right from the start. For me, the Nimber app was also a huge learning experience. I didn't know React Native before I got it. And now I'm basically considered like a senior React Native engineer because I went through all that for almost 3 years.
That was an
Okay,
awesome
so
case.
sorry.
Yeah.
We're a bit tight on time, so I hate to cut things short, but for the next 3 presentations, if you have any questions, please follow up in Slack with the presenter just so we can make sure everybody gets a chance to present before the time is over. But to keep it going, now we have Sergio. Sorry for the mix up earlier.
It's me now. Hi guys, let's do this.
Bill, I like that you generated a bunch of discussion. I'm gonna cut these videos into little segments and we'll post to the individual Slacks so other people can join. And next time when we host these, we're only gonna allow, what, 4 or 5 people? I love that we're going over time, but.
Yeah, and I hope you'll excuse the gym I have behind me, but in Greece we had over 6 months of gym shut down, so I had to make do with here.
Good to know you're taking care of yourself.
Oops. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. Alrighty. I'm Sergio. I am a graphic designer. I do a lot of print. I love print. I love digital too, but I've been doing this for many years. And this is an interesting product that I was an international contest for. It was a design competition for a logo, poster, and a collateral for a movie, Italian movie, from an organization called Arte Media. The challenge was there has to be 3 main criteria: originality, clarity, and effective communication for the jury to select the winner. The jury was composed of leading figures from the communication in Europe, Italy, and some parts of North America. And there were 800 proposals from 40 different countries. Can you see all right my screen? Guys?
I
think
only
it
see
might
red
be.
lines.
Are you seeing?
I
Sorry?
can see like a red slide next to
Yeah.
like a previous slide. I think you
Oh,
might
so
be in like a
sorry.
presenter mode or something.
Gosh,
But
what
if you
happened?
change the mode, then you can just.
I'm so sorry. What? Certainly there was some. Sorry.
Should we move to Doris and come back?
We can do that.
Please, sorry.
My presentation is pretty, I'm going to do it very brief, probably gonna take like 3 minutes. So the problem was that I was given a project that was already started with a company similar to Braintrust. And the challenge was to create 5 apps in 6 weeks. That's basically what the sales engineer closed. And I was like, how we can do it's basically a Spotify for comedy. It's called Laughly, the application at that time. And I was supposed to do an iOS app and Android app, website, the admin panel, and of course the backend. I was product manager at the time, and the company that I work for, you were able to choose the team. So the problem was the timeline, of course. Like, how do you deliver Spotify for comedy in 6 weeks? And additional to that, we had a TechCrunch disrupt in 4 weeks, right? So we had the demo of the application, and it was a huge thing for the client. So we had to have something, right? And it had to be like very like it was pretty much almost done in 4 weeks. So the I had to come up with a solution in terms of the stack that we had to choose in order to make the app. So I decided to go with React Native at that time. It was pretty new. It was actually 2016, I believe. So React Native only had like, I don't know, probably 9 months or something in those rounds. And what I asked for the talent team, because like we had a talent team as well in the company, was to recruit the best person that knew React Native for Android, because we didn't have anyone in the company that knew React Native for Android. So they did a fantastic job, searching for a talent. We actually went to the Facebook page and searched for the demo apps of React Native in Android, and they hired one of those developers. So we were 6 people working on this app full time, and fortunately, we were able to deliver. And in week 4, which was the TechCrunch Disrupt, we were able to do the demo. I'm going to send you a link. And after 6 weeks, we were able to deliver the tablet app for iOS and iPad, iOS app, Android app, admin panel, website, and everything. You know, it's not the best, beautiful UI, but it was extremely functional. The backend was fantastic. We had fantastic engineers, and I think that the project was able to be done and accomplished in such a short time because of the fantastic team that we had. You know, like there were people at the highest levels in each technology. At the end of the outcome was 70K downloads in the first week, and the app was, fantastically working. And at the end, the entrepreneur was able to raise 2.5 mil for this application, and he was still using the one that we did in 6 weeks. So I think it's the outcome is basically, hire a good team, talk a lot. So it's a very challenging project, but we were able to deliver. Here's the link.
Very impressive.
Very crazy. It's crazy 6 weeks. But we were able to do it, Who takes no for an answer?
Okay, well, thank you, Doris. Next, after Doris is AD, but Sergio, if you're ready, we can go back to you, or we can wait. I think you're on mute, Sergio.
Okay, let's do this again. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Can you see now?
Yep, it's perfect.
You seen orange or red?
This looks good now.
Okay. So this is it was a design competition for design a logo, poster, and a collateral for a movie called 3 for an Italian a movie company based in Italy, North Italy. The challenge was to create something completely based in well, the criteria was to originality was 33%, clarity was 33%, and effective communication was 33% of the max criteria for the contest. To meet the criteria, the jury was composed of leading figures from communications and visual entities. So entries, there were 800 proposals from 40 different countries. The plot is a film about cultural, racial, and religious integration, sex, love, good versus evil. There were 3 nations involved: Iran, Ukraine, and Italy. It's 3 religions: the Muslim, Jewish, and Christian. And they're all interlocked in this present time in Udine, Italia. The asset, they provided are more than 600 still photographs. Some movie scenes, some raw scenes that can take a look, and the movie plot, the rationale, and all the specifications for the movie. In that time, the movie was still in color correction and some editing, so it was very interesting. I love research, and part of a good design is a good research. So I was looking for what is the origin of number 3, and of course has mystical qualities in many cultures, like the Chintamani in India that symbolize the sign of happiness. The Borovian rings, which represent the mathematical compositions, all the rings are interlocked, and without one, it doesn't work. The Balnut interlocked triangles from the Vikings, they believe in specific, the soul goes to heaven if you don't have these interlocked triangles. Or the Holy Trinity in some religions, and like in the Christianity, the Father, the Spirit, and the Son and the Holy Spirit. So my solution was, okay, let's play with the number 3 and start with the old school of calligraphy. Okay, so I start using my pen, my brushes, and then in this first exercise, I was working with crayons. So you're playing with crayons and then you scan the crayons. I said, I don't know, it has texture, but it needs something more deep, more body. So I grabbed the brushes and start playing with brushes and ink. I love the composition of ink, and so I start playing with, circular organic figures and shapes. And then I say, okay, let's keep playing. And then I start working with the number 3 and strokes. And then I said, okay, let's start playing. I like what I'm going. And let's start playing with symbols of Christianity. And I said, this is too obvious. I don't want to go to that avenue. So then I decided, okay, let's play more with the number 3, which is technically, a composition of the 3 elements, the 3 characters, the 3 main characters of the movie, the 3 religions, the 3 plots, and then like a flying dove, like a bird, like something more organic and fluid. And then I came up with that one. I love that composition, 3 strokes who unite in the end. And then I came up with the logo. So this one was the thing I said, okay, let's go with this one. Then I presented the poster, the DVD, and other materials, and they love it. I was the winner of the competition. At the end, we changed the color, and they love the concept because they said it was the most original, legible, clear, and communicative of the all compare. The number 3 made the 3 brush strokes converging into one element, a flying dove, a symbol of peace and union. And then I came up with something very interesting. They didn't ask. I came up with a tagline for the movie. Coexistence has 3 names. And the business impact, the first prize was 5,000 euros. Additional income after the poster and development materials for them. Some European recognition since 2008. 12 business leads. A very happy client, and I have a good relationship with the director and the screenwriter of the movie. As today, the film got 29 international awards, 9 international nominations, 31 international selections. And this is a movie trailer, which I want to share the link in the chat. And thank you very much. That's it.
That was awesome. I loved seeing all the photos of like the way your design evolved from the beginning.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so
Questions?
inspiring.
Thank you.
I think it's so cool that we can download people's apps that made here. We can watch movies you guys were a part of. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, and last up we have AD.
Yeah, so let me share my screen here. So you guys can please let me know when you can see.
We can see now.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, thanks for having me. Firstly, I am AD from Brazil. So I will use my Braintrust profile just to show what I will talk about, the project that I will talk about in a second. And yeah, I work mostly with React, React Native, and GraphQL things. You can read here about what I work with. I think the main point to talk about me, I write lots of things here, but I think I take this last sentence just as a highlight. I look for clients that they value these 3 pillars. If they do, we will probably work well together. So I will quick show to you one project that I worked on. This project was one Braintrust client, the first project that I took here. It's called Labalytics. And the problem itself, they had an idea of developing our React Native MVP. So I didn't have the choice to to choose the technology in terms of a framework, right? So was already their decision to do that. But they were in a they are very sensitive in terms of the time, about the time to deliver this app. So the time frame that was given me was 2 weeks to build the whole front end. That was about 13 screens with a couple of interactions between things. And the reason that they had this so short timeline was because of the pandemic situation itself. So they wanted to build something and they go to test the market with this product. And because of that, when I got this project to build, start, I started to think about ways to do this that would not take much time, right? Because I need to find some shortcuts to do things. And one of the things that we decided from the very beginning was to not spend much time with planning. So we did a quick planning ASAP, and after that, it started pretty much working. I try to adapt to the client's media. So they use it, they don't use Slack. In that time they use WhatsApp. So I start to use WhatsApp with them because I could not have time to, to just have them to create something different and try to adapt to me, because I would need to reach them out all the time to ask for clarifications for things. And we have daily syncs using Zoom to do that. So once a day at least, I went in a Zoom call with the CEO, the PM, and the dev team. I say the dev team, but on the front end side was only me, and in the back end side there was two other guys. And on the back end side, they had pretty much the API done, right? There were still things to connect, but the front end, there was nothing. So I start from the very beginning. And another thing that we start doing, usually developers, they don't like to do live in code, but for obvious reasons, right? Because things can get wrong when we are doing live in code. But to integrate the API and make the app work fully in this short amount of time, I did lots of that, like to get together with the team and everyone online in a Zoom call, and they start to take clarification for them for something that was not working, and they start to code what they said on the spot and try to fix it. And I think at the end of the day, it worked well, doing like that to try to have the communication as much clear as possible. And another thing that we did was to look at the app and divide it. I will show some pictures just after that, that divide the app in three core components that are unique for the app, because 2 weeks is a very, very short time. And if anything get wrong, we could miss some spot in the app that was essential. And what I say to them in the very beginning, I could convince them to not do authentication things, like these things that are common to any app. Let's just do first the very core things of the app, and we start doing that. And after that, we integrated the other things in the app. So yeah, let me just show here. And of course, I have here the result that they got an app in 2 weeks in the store that, at least for me, was kind of insane. I never did something similar. And they could start to prospect the customers and try to see what they need to change in their app. So that's pretty much it, the app here. As you can see, it has three core functionalities. Like you need to collect the tests for COVID-19. We have another step, another flow to process these tests, and another one to just show a history of those who had been collected. So for example, if I show here this this is to do this, like there are lots of things that I had to integrate in this app. In the very bottom here, I think I had put the list of things that we had in terms of functionality. Like this app scans a drive license to take some data for the user that is going to take the test. There is barcode scan to scan specimens that are used to collect and to process the test. They need to collect signatures because the user needs to give them the consent that are that's what I did, and yeah, I allow you to take it. They need to take pictures and lots of stuff. So basically, here when the user goes here and start to collect, there is some spots in between, but these are the core functionalities. After searching with the drive license scanning process, if they find the user, they go to a page like that, they verify that that's actually the person that's going to take the test, and they start to collecting, and they need to fill lots of questionnaires, and in the very end, they finalize the process, and they got to a success screen. And now here is already the other flow, the collection history flow. That's just to get them to know a list of people that had been tested and how what kind of result they got. I think the only thing that we put out of scope, we end up not doing, was this filter functionality, but this is something that they can put afterwards. And here, if they click here, they go to the tail page where they can see all the information about the test and the result itself. And yeah, like lots of things in terms of native API integrations, right? Of course, for those who are more into React Native, you know that today we don't need to build this whole native models for start. We already, it's pretty much to connect the things, but lots of things can get wrong in just 2 weeks. So that's why I decided to show this as a project that I'm proud of, because kind of my reputation was on the line to do this in 2 weeks. And yeah, so that's what I have to show. The link here for the app store is here. We end up putting, we still had time to put authentication there. So we put authentication, and we use it React query to make things cache, and yeah, that was the project. So I'll just, because of the time, I stopped from here.
So impressive, AD. Thank you so much for sharing that. I will just call out, it's crazy. You did this in 2 weeks. I don't think I've heard that before. And I love that in your profile, you included, this is how I, telling the client, your project will be ideal if. Like, that's just very refreshing. And also, I think it makes you seem very thoughtful and just, very unique. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Was this fun? I thought this was really enjoyable.
Was, yeah.
Yeah, and Paulina and I will discuss, but we're thinking maybe next time we do role specific. So engineers, so this way you guys can ask each other questions that you understand, and then designers and product. But this is our first time, and I really enjoyed it. I think I can feel some friendships developing from here. So yeah, have a great rest of your day. We'll share this on Slack soon.
All right. Bye
Thank
to
you,
you all.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.